So it's a warning. It's a warning to pastors, but not just pastors. It's really a warning to everybody, and he makes that explicit in verse 12. If you want to look there, throw that one up on the screen. He says, now if anyone builds on the foundation, what's the foundation? It's the gospel. So if anyone builds on that with gold or silver or precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each one's work will become manifest, for the day, big capitalized D, for the day of judgment will disclose it. Because it, the day of judgment, will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. So you've got 6 materials, you've got 3 non-combustible materials, and you've got 3 combustible materials. So you've got basically worthwhile materials that make it through the fire, and worthless materials that don't make it through the fire. And then in verse 14 he says, if the work that anyone has built on the foundation survives what? Survives the fire of judgment, he, that person who worked, will receive a reward. But at verse 15, if anyone's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, said the master of the obvious. Though he himself will be saved, but only as through fire. So what's Paul saying? Paul's saying the way in which you build the church, because every single member of the church has a responsibility in building it. And the way in which you build, the actions that you have, the attitudes that you do things with, the conversations that you carry, those are significant. They have eternal consequences. The choices that you make in this life right now and the way that you build the church, not just in the church building, but in your family and in your workplace, because the church is not necessarily this building, the church is the people in the building, and so the church goes outward. And the way in which you're building that church, whether it's here locally in these programs or whether it's outside in your family or in your workplace, the way in which you build is significant. You're accountable. There are consequences for the way in which you build. There's a judgment day coming. And the judgment day is kind of scary, isn't it? A lot of you got a little uncomfortable when I talked about judgment day. This judgment is not to determine who gets to heaven and who gets to hell. That's a different judgment. This judgment is for believers, and it's for the purpose of rewards. So you notice in this judgment, everybody is saved. Some people smell like they came from hell because the smoke, burned everything up. But they're all saved. It's by grace you've been saved, Paul says in Ephesians 2, not of works, so that no man can boast. But you're saved unto good works, and your works are significant. And so the things that you do on this earth, there's not a one of them that is neutral. None of them are insignificant. You need to be careful how you build. What Paul is saying is you want to work into your church. You want to labor to build into your church attitudes and actions and behaviors and theological convictions that are in keeping with the foundation. With those attitudes and actions and behaviors and theological convictions that are in keeping with the foundation of the gospel, that is what it looks like to build with non-combustible materials. But attitudes and behaviors and convictions and conversations that deviate from the foundation of the gospel, that is how you build with combustible materials. And there will be a day in which all of those attitudes and actions and behaviors which deviated from the foundation of the gospel, those will be revealed, and the fire of judgment will burn them up. And if you were the person who was a Sunday school teacher, small group leader, parent, spouse, business owner, employee, if you were the type who spent your whole life deviating from the foundation of Jesus Christ, then yeah, you may go to heaven and be saved, but you will suffer loss. But on the other hand, if you were the parent who parented according to the gospel and loved your spouse according to the gospel and pastored your church according to the foundation of the gospel and led your group and served as a volunteer in VBS, if you did all of those things in keeping with the foundation of Jesus Christ, then you will receive a reward. That's what Paul is saying. So the application is be careful how you build.